Alright, you bosses, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today this is actually a quick survival hack, and that is just the woolen sweater. Uh, Before we talk about it further about the pros and cons, if you're interested in detective stories, there will be a link in the description to my book called Bloody Crosses. It's in Dutch. If you're interested, take a look. So, today we're going to talk about the woolen sweater. Yeah, that is one of those military woolen sweaters, and these are actually designed by the for the SAS during World War II or even before, I think. And yeah, you many people would say, but it's just a woolen sweater. How? Why is this so special? Well, it has so many advantages in survival, and not only survival, also hiking, camping, everyday life. You can name all sort of things, and that this is useful. Uh, if you ask why I have this backpack on, it's to show you that the reason why many people think that the only reason why you have one of those epaulettes or these shoulder straps onto the shoulders of this military vest, that they are only for epaulettes for your ranks or for other things like MPs, but there's also the initial rule for it was that your shoulder straps of your backpack does not just slide off. That's also the reason why they are here closed and they are here strapped on. So if you can see, it's a little bit harder for if you wear ammo cases or heavy backpacks that they just not slide off your shoulders. So that's why they are initially uh, on top of your shoulders. So that's one advantage for these kind of sweaters, woolen sweaters. First reason why I like this is it's made out of wool, but you have to be carefully if you want to buy one of these, because a lot of sweaters that are made these days, they may look wool, but I've seen a lot of vests that are made out of polyester or are part wool and part polyester or other synthetic materials. But you want to have, like this one, the full 100% wool. Why? First of all, wool will keep his insulation value even for 80%, even when it's fully soaked in water. So that's one first thing for survival and for your bug out bag or for whatever survival situation you're in. Second, it's because it's made out of wool. It will, if you're going to sit next to a campfire because your jacket is drying or whatever, if you have a sweater or a jacket or whatever made out of synthetic materials, if you sit too close to the fire, it will start to melt. It can even burn, and when sparks flying from the campfire and land onto synthetic clothing, it will burn and melt a hole inside of it. With wool, you don't have the problem. You can sit close to a fire, warm up, dry your clothing, and that's with that out of the way. Um, that's a huge advantage if you're going to really doing some bushcraft. So another thing is uh, for sleeping. If you're going to sleep in very hard conditions, like during a bug out, you don't have you cannot bring a whole full tent or whatever. This is something that happened when a few years ago, when there was the floods in Belgium from the heavy rain. I was on a hike, and when we started to set up camp, everything got underwater. There was so much water all over the place and the floods. And yeah, that night everything was soaked. Our material, our clothing, everything was soaked. But some people we could put into a tent, but I chose to sleep in a hangmat, sleeping bag outside. But I was still wet. So, but the reason why I got through the night is because I used woolen blanket and a woolen sweater like this, because it was wet, but like I said before, it retains 80% of its insulation value, and I was drying while I was sleeping, and still was a little bit warm. So I did not suffer hypothermia. Yeah, it's hypothermia because it was drying and keeping me warm, even though I was soaking wet. So that's another benefit. Another benefit is it's durable. You can do a lot of things. You can crawl through the brush, through the forests, and yeah, it can rip, but it's a very durable material. So yeah, with some other materials like polyester or other synthetic materials, if it's get snagged on something, it can rip directly. With this, you don't have that problem, and even though you can sew it back close if it's a little bit too big, but yeah. But what I consider as a disadvantage perhaps is you need a windbreaker, because wool, if you perhaps can see, I can see through the wool now myself into the camera, but it can and let a lot of wind through. But I would say wear something water close, something that is waterproof, like like a rain poncho above it, and you will be protected from the wind, and it will keep you warm at the same time. So that's a good thing, especially when you're sleeping in a bushcraft scenario. Then I would rather want to have one of these to keep me warm. But another thing is, if it's summer, yeah, sometimes even during summer, spring, when it's when you're going hiking, you're getting very hot, and yeah, when you're very hot, a woolen sweater could be annoying. But like I said, you can see through the material that a lot of wind can get through, but you can also lose body heat during warm situations. So that way, so it can go both ways in a way. But if you're going to wear something like this, like in certain spring situations, it's overday hot and at night cold. So use this when it's cold if you're going to sleep, or when it's dark, and during the day when it's hot, just do like the German army during World War II. Roll up your sleeves, because their clothing was made out of pure wool and it was very hot during the days, but it protected them during the night because it was cold. So just roll up your sleeves and wear nothing above it, and it will protect you from the sun, and it will also have a little bit of a cooling effect. So in that way, it's also a good material. It's an all-around versatile sweater material. So yeah, and it is also what I forgot to mention about the shoulder straps, because these materials is here a little bit thicker, like you can see these parts. If I wear my backpack around it, these materials are less likely to be uh, damaged by tear and wear by always putting on the shoulder straps that are perhaps moving around it instead of moving onto this kind of material. So that way it's also very durable. So it's actually made for wearing with a backpack. So yeah, I think I almost said the most things about it. Another thing I would say that it can protect you a little bit from small cuts, like from small animals, thorns, these things, because it's also a very thick and sturdy material. So it can protect you in that way a little bit. So another thing that is just a little bit typical of these vests is that there are two pen holders in here. You can perhaps put something like a ferro rod or a very thin knife inside of this, but for the other things, I'm not really see a use for it, beside for officers who need a pen often. So yeah, and perhaps another downside is it's very, how do you say this, heavy, especially when it's wet. Yeah, it could be very heavy, but for all the benefits you can get, I would say it's worth the weights that it can have. Another thing that I hear people complain about is that they don't like the feeling of wool rubbing against their skin. But to be honest, I never have that problem. I wear this always with a t-shirt beneath it, and I never have this kind of how do you say this, rash, or this kind of bad feeling rubbing against my skin. Perhaps it's something because I've become used to it. But if you have very sensitive skin or not accustomed to this kind of raw materials, perhaps then it's not for you. But I would advise always keep this in your bug-out bag as reserve clothing, because it's all around versatile in hot situations, cold situations, as a improvised as an extra layer in your as a sleeping bag, I would say. So yeah, perhaps what some people do is they cut a small hole inside of it so their thumb can go through it. So it's a little bit protection for the hands, for keeping your hands a little bit more warmer. But yeah, I see some people do that, but I personally don't really need that. But for some people, that could be a beneficial thing. And to be honest, it's also very long. So if you're going to wear pants or a kilt, you can put it in your pants, and it will also keep warm from the pants going escaping, and it also keeps a little lower part of your body warm, and it fits everyone. So yeah, even if you are a fat bastard like me, it still fits, and it fit and it can stretch a little bit. So yeah, I know this was a quick survival hack, that it's very long video for that, but whatever. It's just so all around versatile that yeah, I could not make this video shorter. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Cheers.